So, if you've already done your daily Bible reading, you know that there's a lot in this chapter about the authority of Jesus. And I'm going to show you how that ties back to where we ended the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 7 and why Jesus might discourage three different people from following him in kingdom work because of that same authority. There's a lot that you're going to want to write down. A lot of it ties back to things we've already discussed in the book of Matthew. So get your journaling Bibles out or your pen and paper, and let's dive in. It shouldn't come as any surprise that the opening of Matthew 8 is an immediate callback to where we were in Matthew 7. It says, when Jesus came down from the mountain, large crowds followed him. So you had the large crowd that back in Matthew chapter 5, important note maybe to make, you had a large crowd that came out to see him in the mountain. A large crowd has followed him into the city of Capernaum. But why are they following him? And how does that relate to what we're going to read in Matthew chapter 8? Well, they're following him because they're amazed in Matthew 7 at his teaching, for he was teaching them as one having authority. That's our word for the day, not as their scribes. Now, we immediately encounter this man who's a leper, and I want you to think about how he presents himself to Jesus. It says he bowed down before him and said, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, I am willing, be cleansed. And immediately the leper was cleansed. Now, that's our first point. It's going to have to simmer for just a little while. In fact, we're not going to get done making it until we get to the end of the chapter. But I want you to set this in the back burner, maybe make a note of these verses over in the margin of your Bible, or if you got the journaling Bibles, now's a great time to pick them up on the affiliate link, by the way, because I think they're 30% off. At least they were yesterday when I was looking at them. But what I want you to notice is that this man approaches Jesus, calling him Lord and bowing down. Jesus responds to that by acknowledging his lordship with a command. Now, hold on to it. This needs to simmer for a little while because we don't have it all yet. But the second insight comes right after this. And Jesus said to him, see that you tell no one, but go and show yourself to the priest and present the offering that Moses commanded as a testimony to them. So we see Jesus's authority in his saying, I am willing. But the second thing we see is that Jesus did exactly what he said he would do in Matthew chapter 5. And this is a notation. It's your second insight when he said in verse 17, do not think I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill. So what we're seeing is that Jesus is not telling him to circumvent the law of Moses. In fact, he's telling him to fulfill, and you can maybe think back to Matthew 3 about this, what is righteous according to the law of Moses. We're going to come back to point number 1 for a second. Remember, that one's simmering. And when Jesus entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, imploring him and saying, Lord, my servant, notice the language, Lord, my servant is lying paralyzed at home, fearfully tormented. And Jesus said to him, I will come to him. But the centurion said, Lord, notice the language again, I'm not worthy for you to come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. And I say to this one, go, and he goes, and another, come, and he comes, and to my slave, do this, and he does it. Now, what's interesting about this is the centurion is saying, this is what authority should look like. If you can control life and death, you shouldn't have to be in the same place. To invite Jesus into his home likely would have rendered Jesus ceremonially unclean. The centurion is saying, I don't want to put you through that. That if you command it, it will be done. And Jesus marvels at this. Jesus is actually saying, finally, somebody gets it. And truly, I say to you, I have not found such great faith with anyone in Israel. And then we come up on point number 3. I say to you that many will come to me from the east and the west and recline at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. Now, this is a throwback to the book of Isaiah, to Isaiah 49 and 12, 59 and 19, Malachi chapter 1. But I want you to look at what else he says. But the sons of the kingdom will be cast out into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. But this isn't just a reference to prophecy. I want you to look at what Jesus does. Again, we see him use his authority. And he said to the centurion, go, and it shall be done for you as you have believed. So what separates the centurion from those who would be blood related to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, why he might be one of the ones to come and be part of the kingdom, whereas those who are blood relatives would not, is that he believes that Jesus has the authority to do this. So what it's saying is the centurion is closer to what we see in the Beatitudes in Matthew 5 than some of his own people are. And I would make a note of this, that this is Matthew 5, the Beatitudes in action. This is someone who is a fully formed, developed trust, so much as a centurion could. He has as much of a trust in God through Jesus as it is possible for him to have at that moment. We then have the story of the healing of Peter's mother-in-law. The thing that I do want you to see is in verse 17, we have another prophecy fulfilled. This time it's Isaiah 53. He himself took our infirmities and carried away our diseases. Now he's healing the sick. He's casting out demons. This is not about him taking on the burden of sin, but here it's using that prophecy in Isaiah 53 to talk about his compassion and the way that he would deal with their physical infirmities. So it's a dual fulfillment. But moving on from that, we have a reference to people that want to follow Jesus, that we would also see these same people over in Luke chapter 9. Now, Matthew only records 2 of them. Luke records all 3. But it says, when Jesus saw a crowd around him, he gave orders to depart to the other side of the sea. Then a scribe came and said to him, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus said to him, The foxes have holes and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. And another disciple said to him, Lord, permit me first to go and bury my father. But Jesus said to him, Follow me and allow the dead to bury their own dead. He actually forbids one more person who says, First, I need to go say goodbye to my family. And he says, You're not fit for the kingdom. You don't look like that kingdom citizen in Matthew 5 because it's not your first importance. Then Matthew, in a blink and you almost miss it sort of moment, records Jesus calming the sea. Now, Mark makes a big deal about this, and we'll see that when we get into Mark's gospel. But again, we're coming back to point number 1 here. He has authority over the winds and the waves. And then we come to the last section in Matthew chapter 8, which is the casting out of demons. I love this story because my little boy was obsessed with devil pigs. He was just infatuated with, Dad, they were devil pigs. But it says, when he came to the other side into the country of the Gadarenes, 2 men who were demon-possessed met him, and they were coming out of the tombs. And they were so extremely violent that no one could pass by that way. And they cried out, saying, What business do we have with each other, Son of God? That's a reference to Jesus' authority. So we're going back to that first point again. Have you come to torment us before the time? This would be your 5th and final insight from this section of the Gospel of Matthew, is that the demons are saying there was an appointed time that they could be on earth. And that sort of fits with what Paul says over in 1 Corinthians 13 about when that which is perfect has come, the partial will be done away with. But I want you to see the next thing the demons do. They began to entreat him. That means to beg, saying, if you are going to cast us out, they're appealing to his authority, but also his mercy. If you're going to cast us out, send us into the herd of swine. And he said to them, look at his authority here, go. And they came out and went into the swine. The whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and perished in the waters. So what do we see here? We see that even the demons believed that Jesus was Lord and that he had authority over them. And I want you to notice, and then I want you to see very clearly in all of this, is that Matthew is again making this appeal, when you think about that centurion, to the kingdom of heaven is not what you think it is. All right, that's your 3 to 5 today. I know this one's going to run just a little bit long, but I'm going to edit it down. But hopefully you've checked out the links in the description. You're getting those journaling Bibles, maybe even the whole set if you want to invest that much, because it's on sale right now. But until I see you tomorrow for Matthew chapter 9, have a good day and God bless.